When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of ShopPay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth, where we're exploring all sorts of business topics. Experts from around the world join me, your host, Diane Helbig, for a conversation where they share their expertise with all of you. Take what you need when you need it. Featured on Inc.com, Forbes, and MSNBC's Your Business, this podcast is recognized as one of the best podcasts for small business, sales, leadership, social media, and more. When it comes to business, Accelerate Your Business Growth has got it covered. And now on with the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
My guest today is Patrick Tian. Patrick is an international speaker, USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestselling author, CEO of Rhythm Systems, coach, and serial entrepreneur. His latest book is Navigating Leadership: 7 Essential Practices for CEOs and Senior Leaders. Thanks so much for joining me today, Patrick.
Hey, Diane, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real pleasure.
I'm thrilled to have you here, and I want to dive right into this. So, your book, Navigating Leadership, Essential Practices, you say there are 7 essential practices that you believe are crucial, and I'm wondering if you can tell us what they are.
Sure. So, first I'll tell you that this book is written from my 20 plus years of coaching successful CEOs. So it's been a journey for me, and I've curated these learnings into these 7 practices. So the concept behind this is, first, you really need to work in yourself. Otherwise, I believe you have no right to work on others. So the first 2 practices are you have to continually be curious and you have to level up. So level up is about continuing to grow yourself, because if your company is growing faster than yourself, then you become the limiting factor on your company's growth. So the first 2 is about being curious and leveling up. Then after that, I think you need to be faithful with what you've been given. In other words, you need to execute well with the things you already have. And so the next 2 practices, 3 and 4, are to establish an early warning system for yourself so you don't get blindsided. And the 4th is to achieve full alignment with your team, because without that, you cause waste and rework, and people get surprised. So you're going to be faithful what you've been given. Then after that, you need to provide the right environment for your team members to succeed. And so therefore, 5 and 6 would be make your culture your competitive advantage, and then build a strong people ecosystem. So with that, you can provide the right environment for your people to succeed. And then finally, serve and build your stuff for the right customer. So 7th practice is to really focus on your core customers. A lot of people build strategy about all kinds of different things, and they forget sometimes who they serve, and even among all the customers they have, who are the ones which are really core. So I believe that your strategies need to come from serving the right customer, which in my case, I believe is the core customer. So those are the 7: be curious, level up, establish your early warning system, achieve full alignment, make culture your competitive advantage, build a strong people ecosystem, and focus on your core customer.
Those are really great. And I would love it if you would explain more about the early warning system. So what does that look like? How does someone make sure they've got that.
The early warning system is really cool. So I'll tell you a very quick story about myself. This is years ago when I was running my first company, which was an Inc. 500 firm. And from the outside looking in, we're very successful. From inside looking out, we were stressed. And one night at 2 a.m., I woke up in a cold sweat. So I'm wondering if you or your audience has experienced that. I mean, most people who've been in business long enough have had a 2 a.m. moment, right? So my 2 a.m. moment, I just felt like things were going wrong. And so on that night, my gut was my early warning system. My gut told me that something wasn't going right. And so, I went back to the office. I kind of worked with my head of consulting in those days, and we came up with a different way to look at the business. And we came up with a few key performance indicators, KPIs, and we had success criteria for them, and many of them were red. Now, what was interesting was that if you looked at the status of my projects, they were green. But the early warning system is really a handful of key performance indicators that can give you a sense of what is to come. These need to be leading indicators that give you a sense that danger is approaching. The reason why that's so important is because, business owners, we get really busy. And when we get so busy, some of us are really focused. In fact, some of us get hyper-focused. So we get so focused on the things at hand, we don't see the freight train until it smacks us in the face. And by not seeing that freight train coming, we run from one crisis to another crisis to another crisis. So early warning system is to look at your business in such a way that you can decipher what your gut would wake you up at 2 a.m. in the morning, and decipher that into a few key performance indicators that can let you know what is coming ahead so you can avoid the train wreck. So that's the early warning system.
Boy, that's great. Thank you. I think that is so unbelievably important. And then another thing I was curious about was, setting up your culture to be a competitive advantage. So talk some about that.
Sure. So, the world has changed. And today, I would say that most of us in the business world are in a constant war for talent. Now, sometimes, like I would say a year or two ago, wow, it was really hard to get talent. Now that has eased a little. So today, the pendulum has swung back a little bit more towards the employer versus the employee. But the overall pendulum is more towards the employee. And this has moved a few degrees every year for the last 30 years. Now, if I go back to when I first started work at Oracle, pendulum was very much in the employer side. But today, there are not enough employees for jobs. So what happens is that if you think about the people have also grown up differently. People have now realized that they actually can decide where they want to work. So what I've noticed from a lot of my clients is that employees are now voting with their hearts more than with their wallets. Now, you got to pay people correctly. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that you cannot worry about that. You have to pay people correctly. But once you've done that, people are really desiring to work for companies that they want to fall in love with. They want to fall in love with your purpose, with your why. And then even if your why is the right why, they come to work for you and they find that your culture, your mindsets, your core values are not congruent with what they want, they leave too. So really, you need to have a purpose that wins their hearts and minds, and then you need your culture to be such that they buy into that culture and enjoy that culture. So that's why I call it your competitive advantage, because if all you're trying to do is recruit people for money, then you're going to have to pay a lot of money. I'm sorry. You're just going to pay a lot of money. But if you can win their hearts and their minds, then you have to pay them a competitive wage, but you don't have to pay them the maximum wage. So for a company that creates a phenomenal environment, not just in recruiting, but also in keeping your employees, what we call retention. And, I always tell people that when you talk about employee retention, I say you really got the wrong word, because guess what? You don't get to keep your employees. You don't get to retain them, frankly, because people choose to come or go. You don't get to keep them. What you can do is make them fall in love with you so that they choose to stay. So when people say, hey, I need to improve my employee retention program, I kind of think you need to improve your employee love program. You want to get your employees to fall in love with you, engage, and love your culture. So that's why I call these your competitive weapons.
Yeah, that is terrific. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking, and the interesting thing is that those are the people who are totally committed, enthusiastic, and help you grow to a point where everyone gets to make more money. Like everyone gets to benefit from that because they're all going in the same direction and they're excited about it.
Right. Totally. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, it's great. It's so amazing to me that people don't necessarily think about that and then wonder why they have a lot of turnover and they feel like they're constantly in hiring mode. So, speaking of that, though, let's talk about the importance of humility and curiosity in leadership.
Yes.
How important are those and why? Like, what's the impact of that? And how would you suggest leaders really cultivate those traits?
I would say, my belief is humility and curiosity are critical. I think that, Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, talks about level 5 leaders. And, interestingly enough, he says that the level 5 leader is somebody that has to have enough ego and ambition to really drive a company forward, right? So you need ego and ambition. At the same time, that level 5 leader needs to have enough humility to really blame themselves when things go wrong. And he said, when something goes wrong, the level 5 leader goes, man, it's kind of my fault. I need to fix whatever I need to fix. He said the less aware leader would blame his team or her team. Hey, we screwed up because so and so messed up, etc. And so when you look at that model, it's like, okay, a person has to have enough humility to admit mistakes. And I even use the word vulnerability. I think that people are choosing to work for leaders today that are vulnerable. And there are probably other speakers and authors who know more about this topic than me. I've just observed that vulnerable leaders tend to draw people to themselves. So first, I think you need some vulnerability. Secondly, I think that in order to learn, you should always be seeking that knowledge, and therefore you need curiosity. And it's really hard to learn if you don't have enough humility, especially when you get longer in your career. In fact, in my book, I talk about how experience used incorrectly could be a hammer and a dissuading factor, not a good factor. So sometimes we hire really experienced executives, and they come in and they're like, hey, I know how it's done. I did it at XYZ company. Just do what I say. No, can you please explain to me why we should do it this way? No. That's because I've seen it 100 times and it works, right? So when you have that kind of experience, the other younger person doesn't learn from you. And so you transform that younger person who may be craving knowledge and learning to become more like, all right, I'll just do whatever you say. I'll turn my brain off and I'll do whatever you ask me to do. So I do think that humility is really important, especially the more experience you have. You've got to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to bring my experience to the table. I don't know everything, and I'm excited to see what I don't understand so that I can help us both be better in this relationship.
So ego is a really dangerous thing.
Yes. And I think you need, there's, like I said, there's two sides of that ego, right? One side is you need enough ego to be ambitious. I think that every business person has a strong ego. Like, it takes ego to say, I'm going to go out there and start a company and not rely on a paycheck from somebody else. So it does take a certain amount of ego and self-belief. So you could actually have the both of them. It's what I call the power of the A and D. You take the best parts of ego, which is drive, determination, and you map it with the A and D, the and of humility, so that you can actually dial back your ego at certain parts of your discussions to learn and to be open to other people's ideas. Because I think if you have too much ego and you believe you're the smartest person in the room, then smart people will not want to come work for you.
Sure. Right, because they never get the opportunity to really contribute the way they want to. So talk to me about this core customer that you were talking about before. I totally agree with you. I think too many companies are willing to take on anybody instead of really focusing. But talk some about that and why it matters.
I think every company, after a while, they'll figure out who are the companies. So this works for B2B, business to business, as well as B2C, consumer.
Mhm.
Because even in a business to business, you are selling and serving a human being, right?
Yep.
So sometimes we forget that. We're like, oh, we're selling to a business. No, you're selling to a human being that's at that business. And by the way, that human being is choosing to buy from you. So for example, I am an Apple fanboy. I'm sorry to admit it on your podcast, but I am an Apple fanboy. So what that means is that anytime Apple has a new product, I would be happy to give them my credit card and just send it to me ahead of everybody else. I'm an Apple fanboy. Now, so me, I buy for myself as an Apple fanboy, but I also buy for my family. I've got a wonderful wife and two beautiful children. And so my house is full of Apple products. My girls know not to come to me and say, Daddy, can I have an Android phone? I don't think so. So I'm buying for my family. I buy for my company. So it would shock you, of course, to hear that in my company we're all using Apple laptops. So, my point in sharing my own case study is that I'm a person and I'm buying, whether as a consumer or for my company, I'm the same person. I desire something that is easy to use, has high quality elements in there with nice design, and it should work. I shouldn't have a lot of IT support. And I desire that for my personal life as well as my business life. Therefore, I am what you call a core customer at Apple. And I think that all businesses should have the same core customer concept, which is, hey, I know we sell to a business if you're B2B, but who in that business do we really, really, really sell to? Forget the title, but who's the person? What is that person like? And once you figure that out, you can now build your products and services. In fact, you should, not you can, but you should build your products and services so that that core customer would enjoy it. And then, so this is not just about selling, it's also about the strategies you create, the products you create, the service level you create. And so when you think through all that, you pull on that thread, and that thread runs through your product, your strategies, your delivery, your brand promises, your customer service experience, your customer journey, because you want to have that consistent journey all the way through. So I believe that most companies can probably benefit from a core customer exercise to validate their strategies and maybe even fine-tune their strategies for more effectively targeting their core customer.
Yeah, for sure. I am totally about that. I agree with that. Okay. If someone's listening and they're thinking to themselves, this makes a lot of sense. I have some work to do, but they're not really sure where to start. Is there, one of these practices that you think is a higher priority than the other? I know you said before that they have to work on themselves first, but after that, what would you suggest to someone who's trying to figure out what to do?
So I'm a very practical guy. I think that all business owners know what problems they have, or if they don't, then they better slow down, put some think time into the schedule, and figure out where the business problems are. With that being said, I've identified 4 areas in my book, right? First, is it yourself? How are you doing? Is it your execution? Are you running from crisis to crisis? Is it your people? Do you have people quitting on you? Do you have what's going on there? And strategy, are your products selling well? Are you doing well in the marketplace? If you're not doing well in the marketplace, your strategy probably needs to be tuned. So those are the 4 areas I would look at. And we have, the 7 practices mapped to that. So for example, if you said to me, oh my gosh, Patrick, people are quitting. Okay, well, go check out, practice 5 and 6. How's your culture doing? How's your mindsets? How's your core values? How are your people decisions coming along? Are you building a good people ecosystem, or are you just hiring anyone that can fog a mirror with their breath because you're hiring so fast? And if you said to me, well, Patrick, I'm really having trouble with crises, I solve one, another one comes up, I feel like I'm playing whack-a-mole, then go build yourself an early warning system, right? So I think that you can diagnose where your issues are, and then you can look at the 7 practices and say, which practice should I start with right now? That's how I would look at it.
That's terrific. Thank you. And Patrick, thank you so much for spending this time with us. Will you let the listeners know how they can find you and your book, please?
Yes. So, my book is new. It's selling on Amazon.com. It's called The Journey to CEO Success, 7 Practices for High Growth Leadership. You can also just come to patricktien.com and it'll take you to my webpage, and my information's all there. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And I'd love to connect with anybody who would like some answers to these questions.
Excellent. Thank you. And listeners, thank you. You are who we're doing this for. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, a production of Evergreen Podcasts. Discover more episodes of this podcast and explore others at evergreenpodcast.com. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And if you're looking to get your sales strategy headed in the right direction, pick up a copy of Succeed Without Selling on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
Do you love news about LinkedIn, Indeed, Google, and just about every other recruitment tech company out there?
Hell yeah. I'm Chad.
I'm Cheese.
We're the Chad and Cheese Podcast.
All the latest recruiting news and insights are on our show,
dripping in snark and attitude.
Subscribe today wherever you listen to your podcasts.
We out.